Yo, dog, Kitty Boucher here, next level painting, hitting you up on the literal best of all days. Spellcrow on deck. We got that Plague Prince and that Plague Lord, and obviously we took it to the next level. So you might remember last week, we just took him to the tabletop, and if you want to catch those next level videos, find me on Twitch. Here we go. He's got a sick resin base. We're going back with the Army Painter. We're just going to take a lot of different colors here, a Viking Blue, an Alien Purple, a Wolf Gray. We're going to slap them all together, make an interesting gray. I'm doing this with little to no thought process. Here's the situation. I'm sure they make a gray like this, but I gave away about 100 Army Painter singles in gift bags live on Twitch this month. So we're kind of light on stock, so we're just making it happen, showing off the diversity of the range. I normally like to use resin bases from Elrik's Hobbies, even Secret Web miniatures, but hey, Spellcrow came in clutch with a resin base. Okay, so you saw we laid down a quick base coat with that setup of colors. Now we're going to add a little of that mummy robe. These are a lot of the same colors we used last week. We're going to start up in the pot with a little dirty paint water left over from the transition. We're going to create a highlight. Solid looking gray. And now we're going to just focus on the edges and maybe center of mass on some of these rocky, cracked, flat regions. There's really no rhyme or reason. We're just trying to create an interesting pop to it before we take out our dry brush and make this thing look like rock. I just wanted to have the gray look a little bit more interesting than a normal gray. So we have a purple, we have some blues mixed in, and now we have an off-white ivory color. Looking solid, feeling it, getting slick transitions, as smooth as can be. Real easy. Now I do like to usually take it to 11 because I'm going to usually do a wash here, but a lot of times you can get away with a lot on a base. So we're going to pop it out with this airbrush technique. We're going to come in one more time with the mummy robes with less of the previous transition. We don't have any of that dirty paint water in the pot, and we're just going to give it that final punch, take it to 11, but we're going to be leaning on the dry brush technique. We're not going to be going with the heavy wash here. I'll show you why. We want to preserve some of these fancy colors. So here's a dry brush right here, soft round tip. We're taking those mummy robes yet again, and we're just going to create some nice aggressive dry brush and catch those edges, and it's going to immediately start transforming this base into a very realistic dusty rock outcropping with some nice dimension and transitions built in. The wash would undo a lot of that, and it's not really necessary because we are going to be leaning also on an OSL effect. So we're getting a huge Nurgle workout today and a solid basing tutorial all in one. Here we go. A lot of times I only go one direction with the dry brush to catch the edges, to create the illusion of the brightness coming from one point. We're going to be moving it around these holes because those holes will be glowing. So I want to make sure they're kind of extra bright around these corruption plague things. I'm not a plague scientist. Jungle green, Viking blue, slap them together. We're going to create kind of a mint green, lay them down in the holes. This will be the first like I want to say this is the furthest from the light source, I guess the best way to describe it. It's the darkest, more translucent, it's very thin, and we're not afraid to go everywhere with it, within reason. This is where the green is slinging its light the furthest from the point of origin. So we're just making sure we have a good base coat here, and then we're going to just start adding more jungle green and less of blue into the mix. Jungle green is a really solid color, and what we're doing here is we're aiming our stream to the center of these little plague thingies. We're making it smaller, more precise, and we're punching it up. We're not afraid to do 2 or 3 thin coats to get that green to maximize. And once we're happy with that green, we can move on. You can see with just very little work, it's already looking like it's an OSL effect, an object source light. Now, Army Painter makes a lot of great colors. Jungle green is probably one of the brighter greens in their lineup. We're going for a second pass here, but don't be afraid to start adding yellow to it. I really like their moon yellow. It's a very sick yellow, but it will brighten the green, give us the highlight we're looking for, and keep it kind of in that plague spectrum. So moon dust on deck here, 100% one of my favorite colors. Now we're going to put a little bit in the pot, marry the colors together. I always like to do that. It's the next level painting system. That's how we create those flawless transitions. Take your time, get in real tight. You don't want to be as thin with the paint here, just because you're getting so close, you might have trouble getting it to stick without just running everywhere. Progressively add more moon yellow to the mix, get in tighter, do more passes, narrow the beam. Once you work it a few times, you're going to get exactly what you're looking for. That OSL. Paclow. Now, every OSL effect still requires a little bit of brush work here, so we will come back to that in 1 second. After we hit all these little maggots, we're going to let all that airbrushing dry. We're just using some of those mummy robes, maybe some skeleton bone from Army Painter, and we're just going to give them all a quick base coat, and we're just going to lean heavy on wash here for all these little extra details because it is a base. I don't want to go crazy here. Sometimes I find really insane bases take away from a really tight model, but not always. I just use it as an excuse not to go all out. Little maggots, find them. Sometimes they're hiding under rocks, you can't even see them. Silly little guys. He's got some crawling out of this thing. Bah, disgusting. Okay. Now let's make sure we get that skull. He's got 2 skulls in the base. I'll miss one at this point in the video, but I'll come back to it. Using a little bit of that skeleton bone color from Army Painter. All right, here it is. This is a glaze technique. We took that jungle green, we mixed in some water and some flow improver, aka medium. We thinned it down to almost water. And we're gonna do several thin coats. We're gonna be basically just dragging it into these cracks. I guess it's more of a pin wash if you want to get serious, but we're glazing in the fact that we're controlling it. We're going to be doing several passes. We're just trying to tint the surrounding colors to give it the illusion. You see right there in my thumbnail how thin that is. 2 or 3 thin coats, hit all those channels. It's going to really create the illusion that these rocks are cracked, and underneath all of this is some disgusting network of like glowing plague shenanigans. Boom, all day, every day. Glaze Technique is your friend in the world of miniatures, and this is what I'm talking about. We're getting our brush involved. We're making sure we're slinging this green into all the areas, filling up into the gaps, and there you go. He's looking solid. We slapped him on his base. Now we're ready to introduce a few washes and maybe some final bonus techniques. Here we go. Strong tone. This is what made Army Painter famous, in my opinion. We're going to take some raw dog, throw it on the skull, throw it on the maggots. We don't even worry about thinning it down. We're not even going to worry about a secondary highlight. We're just going to let the wash find its way into the crevices, give us some antiquing, give us some definition, give us a little bit of that dinge on some of these extra details. Don't be afraid to let it splash anywhere. It doesn't matter. It can get on the base. I'm trying to focus down on the maggots, but hey, it is a base. It is dirty. There we go. Now those maggots are looking a lot more realistic because all those ridges have been shaded. That simple, one pass. Pow. So here he is, he's looking sick. Here's our bonus secret weapon miniatures realistic water effect. I'm trying to hold him straight up here so that it doesn't just drain off, but basically one and done. Give yourself maybe 2 or 3 thin coats of this effect. I'm going to throw it all up in the business of these craters, let it dry, put another coat in once it dries, and we're going to basically just fill them with liquid, glowing plague pus. Disgusting. But hey man, there it is guys, Nurgle style on deck with Spellcrow and the Army Painter. Hey, big shout out to all my Patreons over on Patreon. If you guys didn't know, you can always support me over there and get that VIP access. Play on, players. If you like these tutorials, check out Next Level Painting on Patreon. Become a patron of the arts today. We offer early and exclusive access to our videos and a rewards program for different pledge levels. Patreon is PayPal and credit card secure, so you don't have to worry about that. We use 100% of the money to improve our process.